Seven on Sundays podcast is intended for mature audiences. Episodes discuss sensitive and fraught topics that many teens and 20-somethings face, but may be triggering. The content may not be suitable for all audience members. Please take caution when listening.
I'll say I don't like college because it's definitely not what I wanted it to be. But I think now I'm starting to realize this is what needed to happen. This is how I needed to grow. And I find peace in that because it's it might suck now, but I have hope that it'll get better. And I have hope that because I'm realizing this now and I'm realizing this early, that maybe I'll be ahead and maybe I'll be like, okay, I can start becoming more comfortable self.
Hello and welcome to Seven on Sundays, the podcast about how young adults are navigating sex, relationships, and life today.
We are your hosts, Dr. Shez Leby and Stephanie Boy, and each week we will share our candid conversations with young adults and experts about today's tough topics.
Hello, Seven on Sunday listeners. I have a question for all of you. Has the college experience let you down? Do you feel like a lack of connection with your peers? You are going to really resonate with the stories of Henry and Anna. I think it's safe to say that they feel like college is not all that they hoped that it would be.
Exactly. I love this interview because we're hearing from two different people that are originally from two different parts of the country, one male, one female. And what they're sharing is how their perception of college was maybe influenced at first by social media. You know, this picture of everything perfect and everybody having a blast and smiles and fun. But really, from their experience, they weren't having that kind of picture perfect experience that we see in social media or in the movies or even told by our parents. You know, as parents, we say, oh, it's going to be the best 4 years of your life and those kind of things. So I feel like this is a really relatable story. It's really important to look at more realistic expectations if you're heading to college or you're there and you're not sure how you feel about it. We want you to know that you are definitely not alone if you experience that. And maybe you'll learn some, tips and kind of tools from Henry and Anna. They really offered incredible insight, and I'm really happy to get to talk to them.
Awesome. Let's jump right in. Now we're going to talk to our two college students, Henry and Anna. And this conversation actually started with several different students that I've spoken to and clients that Dr. Shez has had about the disappointment that some people feel when they enter college, that maybe it doesn't meet their expectations, or they just had an entirely different idea of what they would get from college. Anna is a senior, and Anna, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your story and, what your feeling is about college and what you expected and what it's been for you.
Sure. So as a senior, I definitely have been doing a lot of reflecting on my college experience so far. And I think to add on top of my college experience, we also want to bring in COVID and how that affected it. But alongside that disruption, I think going into college before the pandemic even started, I, as well as a lot of my other friends, had expectations of, oh, you're going to find the school that you absolutely love, and you're going to find great friends, lifelong friends, friends that'll be in your wedding, tight-knit friend groups, and, maybe you'll end up with a boyfriend or significant other. And I think my experience with all those, standards that I thought would be met haven't been met. So I feel almost a little bit let down in a sense, because I don't feel as though I necessarily have that tight-knit friend group, and I don't have a boyfriend right now. So I think what society hypes college up to be, and in terms of, oh, you're gonna party multiple times a week and have the best time of your life, I think it's a little far-fetched from what I've personally experienced.
Yeah. Have you talked to your friends about this? Like, do you notice that other kids are saying the same thing as you're kind of seniors and reflecting back?
Yeah, I definitely think that it's been different for everyone. And in terms of talking to people, I would say everyone has had quite a different experience, especially friends at other schools versus friends at the school I'm at. But I think social media definitely plays a large role in this as well, because you see your friends from high school or acquaintances and they're living, or so it seems, such different lives. And you might see pictures or videos of their friends and they seem super close or having a great time. And for someone like me who doesn't particularly enjoy drinking a whole lot, I think it's been a struggle to find other outlets besides partying to feel kind of a sense of community, especially going to a school that's not super community oriented or a closed off campus.
Right. Wow. That's so insightful. And we definitely want to talk to Henry too. But just to say to you that the fact that you're doing this reflecting and that you're looking at it that honestly and openly is such a healing, like amazing skill at your age. So thank you for sharing all this. And thank you for being the kind of person that's reflecting back with such honesty, because I think that's where the disappointment gets embedded even further if we're like, no, let's just not talk about it. Let's not even talk about what these feelings are. Like when you see your friends from other schools post pictures that seem like they're getting this great experience, the life that, was kind of built up to be in college, and then you're not. And then most people don't really discuss that, I think. So thank you for first discussing it here, but also looking at that for yourself is huge. And it is all social media, man. Oh my gosh.
We said in the beginning when we were doing the introduction that, the expression is, comparison is the thief of joy. And I said, I think in this case, it's expectations are the thief of joy, but they kind of go hand in hand. They're kind of like siblings to each other, that you have these ideas. And I'm sure you know this. I still think it's hard no matter what, but social media really seems to be this. You either see college experience through the eyes of Hollywood or you see college experience through the eyes of social media, which is very edited to make everyone look like they have a beautiful life, And I think that, Anna, you and I had talked about this, that I think that drinking for a lot of people, even though they feel disappointment, if they go out and they drink, they feel less disappointed. That's always kind of the way that it happens. But then also there's the letdown later on that the next morning when you're hungover, the reality really sets in because, of course, alcohol is a depressant. But, for people who aren't drinking like you, it does, I'm sure, feel a little bit isolating because I think a lot of people are coping with alcohol.
Definitely. That is the number one. I mean, wouldn't you guys agree as students that the number one coping skill for any angst at this age and stage of life is drinking? That's what people are doing.
I would
It's not
definitely
healthy,
agree
but
with
that's
that.
what people are doing. Yeah. Drinking and or drugs and or I don't know, there's many other escapes, but yeah. So Henry, what's your experience with as a freshman, the expectation and kind of the reality of what life is like for you?
Sophomore.
Oh, yeah.
Sophomore. Sorry,
That's
sophomore.
fine. It's
Sorry.
fine.
So sorry.
So I'm a sophomore right now in Arizona, and like most people, I had this great big idea of what college would be, especially since I went to one of the biggest party schools. So I was like, this is gonna be so much fun. Like, this is gonna be the best time of my life. That's what everyone said. It's like college is the best 4 years of your life. Don't let it pass you by. It's gonna be so much fun. And so I really went into college with that mindset. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make as many friends as possible. I'm gonna do whatever. I'm gonna go out. And that's what I did do. I went out, I drank a lot, I made a bunch of friends. But as time went on, it kind of like wore off in a sense. And I was like, okay, like this is what everyone thinks is so much fun. Like this is the best 4 years of my life. Why do I feel like this? Like, why am I like, oh, this sucks when everyone's like, this is so much fun. And like kind of what Anna said, it's like you see on social media, you see all your friends having so much fun. They don't seem to be having a problem with this. But then personally, I'm like, well, this does not seem fun to me. And all the friends that I made, they were made through drinking. Every time I would go out, I'd make a new friend. And then it's like when you're sober, it's like that same friend isn't that friend that you met the night before. So it's this weird idea. It's like that you're supposed to be having so much fun, but you're not having so much fun. And it seems like everyone's having fun, so you feel like you're like an outcast in this like and like you're like an outcast of your age. You're an outcast in college because you don't have this same perception of what fun is that everyone else does or what everyone else claims to have, because nobody really talks about it. It's a very, I haven't really talked about this with anyone besides my family and my girlfriend. Those are the only two people that I've talked about it with, because everyone else just puts on this persona. In my eyes, I think it's a persona that everyone has so much fun drinking, but which that might be the case, but in my reality, that's not the case. So I think that was the biggest reality check for me coming into my sophomore year, when I was like, okay, I don't really want to drink anymore, but everyone else is, so I don't know if I should drink. It's kind of like an identity crisis. And that I
Yeah.
think that happens with me, that's a big thing, because everyone's like, drinking so much fun. I don't like drinking that much. It's obviously it's fun, but I don't like drinking that much. And then it's like, oh, hooking up with girls is so much fun. I've never thought that was fun, but in my mind, it's like, should I think that's fun? Is that something I should be doing? Like in my whole life, I've never been like, yeah, I think those are like, I think that's for me. I've never thought that. But then coming to college and like hearing stories or seeing how people act in college, and they're doing completely opposite things and they look like they're having fun. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not doing those things and I'm not having fun. So should I be doing those things? Will that make it more fun? It's weird. There's a lot of things that play into it, but it's like this weird identity crisis that I've had, because I had such high expectations and I did those expectations and then it didn't lead to anything. And so now I'm like in this weird like purgatory, in a sense, where it's like I don't know what the right thing is or what the wrong thing is.
Hmm. I have a
I,
question.
I was
Oh,
just going to say to both of you, have you had the experience of going out and not drinking? Like, what is that like? If students don't drink and you go out, like, what are the other, one, what are the other options? But two, what if you go out with the people who are drinking and you don't drink? Is that a different sort of reality, or does that feel any better or worse, or?
I think, I mean, I know my roommate has mentioned to me multiple times. She goes, it's just so impressive that you can go out and not drink. It's just really commendable. I could never do that. But in my head, I'm like, huh, that's interesting. Like, there's so many, and I don't think she's the only one. I would assume there's more college students out there who could relate to her. And I often do go out a lot sober now. And as Henry said, you know, the partying thing's great at first, good for a year and a half. But after that, or however long it takes you to kind of find that it's not your thing, after that, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, what do I do with myself? Because everyone else my age is still partying and drinking, and that's all that they're fascinated on. It's not, you know, anything deeper than that, or so it appears. So, you know, going out sober for me, it has its benefits and it also has its downfalls because yeah, I'm not waking up with a hangover, which is great, but at the same time, you know, I'm more of a quiet person and kept to myself. I love chatting with people, but how much chatting are you going to do when you're in a nightclub? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit of a fine line there, but yeah, I would say it is tougher sometimes because I know I, like Henry said, I was all into the partying at the beginning stages of college. And so I do know what it's like to, you know, you get a little bit more pep in your step when you're under the influence of alcohol. And it's not so much there when you're not drinking, but like I said, there are some benefits to that. But overall, I would say it is a little bit more challenging.
Mhm.
Personally, I've never done that. I don't know if that's a bad thing, but every time I've gone out, I've drank. I've never gone out sober. And I think it's just the anxiety of it. And I
mhm.
would never say that it's like I'm a very anxious person, but when you are going out with a group of your friends, however you want to describe friends, not necessarily good friends, but friends, whenever you go out with a group of friends and everyone's drinking and you're going out and it's like, okay, well, it's like, what the hell? What am I gonna do if I'm sober? Am I just gonna sit there in the corner? Which, granted, I know that's not what everyone does, but in my mind, that's like, okay. And this is also another thing. It's like, which is kind of bad, I guess, but I like myself when I'm drunk, especially when I'm going out, because I'm very out there. I'm very open. I talk to a lot of people. I think for me, it's more fun, which is a very bad thing, which is why I kind of started this, because like, okay, why can I only do this when I'm drunk? It's because I'm not who I am when I'm sober, and I want to be who I am then when I'm sober. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like
Yeah.
this weird thing. It's like
Mhm.
I like myself when I'm drunk because I can make friends and I can talk to whoever and I can have fun. And I can go out and like scream at the top of my lungs on the dance floor, whatever. It doesn't matter. but I can't do that when I'm sober. So it's like this weird thing. It's like when I'm going out, then I want to be drunk because I'm that person. But then it's weird because then when I'm sober, I'm like, okay, I want to be that person, but I don't want to be under the influence of anything. I don't know if that makes sense, but
It
to
does.
get back to the question, I personally have not gone out sober due to the anxiety of it all.
Yeah.
So Dr. Shez, isn't like what is like developmentally, you had given me an idea the other day about when we're in high school, we're breaking away from our families, and that's like the role of like the adolescent. And then when you go to college, you're starting to get to know yourself. So how does this play into like that whole aspect of development of like the ideas you have about yourself?
It's
And especially
exactly
when you
what,
have like such a conflict.
right. So what this stage of development is, and you guys are like way above the pack. So yay, you too. But this is a stage of individuation. So this is when you are learning to individuate. And you started this in high school. We all kind of did, to kind of separate from our parents. And at first, oftentimes I see with teenagers in particular, that they want to be anything but their parents. Like they want to be complete opposite, which is why they might dress completely opposite, do things completely opposite. All of that is so normal to try on these different identity things. Then when you're fully individuated in college on your own, if that's the experience that you have, that you're away from home, that can be a very anxiety producing time because you don't know yet and don't feel, most importantly, feel yet comfortable in the skin of who you are as an independent individual adult, right? So alcohol makes it easier, or drugs, whatever the things are. It makes it presumably easier because that lessens the inhibitions and does, kind of medicate the anxiety a bit temporarily because, so that you can feel that differently. So it's exactly what you're saying, Henry. It's an identity crisis of I want to be myself and I want to be who I know I am when I'm uninhibited because of alcohol, but yet I don't feel fully confident in that without the alcohol. So developmentally, that's actually exactly where you are. And that can be, people can say arrested there, can stay in that place for a very long time because of alcohol, because they don't learn to be okay without a substance of really owning who I am and being in that space. And I work with adults that are, 50 something and still working on this, me included. Like I'm still working on that. Like, who am I and how can I be really comfortable in my own skin without having to live up to this expectation in my own mind? The expectations that are in our own mind are even worse sometimes than the societal expectation because we buy into it and we have this rosy picture of what it should be or what it could be or is supposed to be. And then it's never that, like never. So then of course we're like, well, what am I doing wrong? Or why am I such a loser or whatever it is? So I think that that's what you're getting at, Steph, right? Is all that making sense?
Yeah, I'm just thinking like you have these two young people in college and they have two sort of different stages, maybe. Like Anna said that for the first year and a half, which is where Henry is, that was like the normal protocol. But then I think you start to realize like this isn't very fulfilling. How do you get to a place where, like, I think Anna is where you're willing to go out and all that kind of stuff, but you still feel unfulfilled.
Right.
And where maybe Henry's trajectory is more like, I want to be more like the person that I am. And I mean, as a mom, like, and only just having kids that go through college, my thing is the more you can find people who are like you. And I think in my own experience, I had one friend who hated going out. And then I had all of my other friends wanted to go out. And so I would do things with my one friend who didn't like to go out. We would go to museums, we would go to movies, we would go, check out like festivals. I went to school in DC, so there was always something cultural going on. And then that was fulfilling, that part of me. And I felt like seen. You know what I mean? I think that's part of it, is you don't feel seen. You know, like Henry's expressing, you go out, this is the person I want to be. Maybe my own peculiar, like weird ideas of what's fun doesn't seem fun to the crowd, but you get fulfilled when you have somebody who sees you and recognizes that in you. And then you can be also part of the, you know, like hang out more social people. So, I mean, I guess as a parent, I would say, you have to find groups and find people that are like you, and you know, you have to identify with that. But I'm pretty sure probably Anna's tried that. So I'd love to hear your perspective. And Anna, have you tried groups? Have you had success with, you know, groups of people that, you know, obviously fraternity, sorority, it's based on drinking, bars based on drinking, but finance group, you know, movie club, like groups around school that may be more finding your tribe?
Yeah, so I think it was the middle of my sophomore year and I joined a sorority, which was great in terms of meeting people and social events and stuff. But still, the large social events were, you know, surrounded by drinking and stuff like that. So I want to say towards the, it was also around the same time. So I got a personal trainer and she was only a year older than me. And she really, really helped me because I developed a passion for the gym and it helped me physically and mentally. And she ended up becoming one of my best friends through this like-mindedness. And yeah, I think that really helped me. And last year was great. We did things together that didn't just involve partying and would go to the gym together. And she just encouraged me to push myself in ways that I, you know, wasn't even considering doing without having her help. So it definitely helped me in a lot of ways to befriend her because, like I said, that like-mindedness definitely helped. But kind of now that she's graduated and lives in a different state, it's again kind of, I don't want to say back to square one because I do have other friends and acquaintances, but like you were mentioning, Stephanie, the just having that one friend to do something with who also kind of has the same mindset as you is really nice.
Yeah.
Because for me, I've tried the group thing and it doesn't seem to work out all that great for me. And I enjoy more one-on-one or smaller group settings because I feel like it's more valuable to me.
I just want to say that by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I think that we have this idea that we have to have this large group of friends or that we have to drink. I mean, I had one of my closest friends is a model, and she's like, Stephanie, I need to tell you that the pressure to drink it literally, until I was 45 years old, people kept using things like, oh, don't you want to have fun? Don't you want to, you know, oh, this is, you know, one drink, what harm? Or they'd ask her, why are you not drinking? Do you have an alcohol problem? Like, she was like, it never stopped until I was like 45 years old. She was finally like, I just don't drink. I just don't like it. You know, so I think that there's a lot of pressure to be like that drinking, big crowd people, but there's nothing wrong with having one or two close friends also and keeping things small, you know. Dr. Shed,
Yeah.
sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, that's great. Anna, I think another expectation is just that, Steph, that this big group is what we want, because that's what we see in social media. The big groups of people that, oh, they love me and look at me and look at what I'm doing. And you can't befriend or be friends with large groups in any intimate, like real way. And I'm not saying intimate sexually, but just in a meaningful way with a large group of people, that's just not as possible. And when we have this idea in our heads that like, oh, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to have my bridesmaids, you know, they're the people that are going to be in my wedding. That's who I'm going to meet. Really, all you need for your wedding is one witness. So really, you need one person, and that's it. And that is just as meaningful, whether you have 10 to 15 bridesmaids or whatever people have these days, or you have the one, you know, or groomsmen, whatever. But, and so that like all these expectations that are out there about all those things are what we have to challenge and be like, well, actually, everything you just said about finding this person that you share meaning with and you share purpose with and you share a fun of exercise with. And I understand she graduated, but having all that is all that. Like that's beautiful. And if people, you know, if you on social media said that, I found, you know, my great friend, whatever it is, and I'm not saying to do that, but that's what you want, like that more than the other kind of not meaningful groups is what I believe helps people be happier. And here's the goal is not happiness. The goal is adjustment, right? And I wanted to ask you guys, do you feel that these people that seem happy or seem like they're loving this life of this big partying and all those things, do you believe that they're actually well-adjusted, doing well emotionally, psychologically? The masses that you're encountering, do you believe that they are well?
I don't know if Henry, you want to take that?
Yeah. So personally, actually, I have a few stories for this. So last year was great. I had a big group of friends. I had multiple different groups of friends, and we had a bunch of fun, whatever. But I had this one friend. He was like, everyone loves him. Everyone loves him. No matter who I'm friends with, everyone loves him. And he always seems like he's having fun. Like he always went out. Like he was a great person to be around. He was a fun person to be around. And then I would say like every month or so, he would just go missing for like a week. And as I got closer to him, like he is one of my close friends now, whether I'm going out or just sitting in his room, like he's one of my close friends now. So I'm able to talk to him about things. And so, but last year he'd go missing like once or twice every month, like once a month. And he would just go, like, he wouldn't go anything. He would sit in his room. He wouldn't go out. And so eventually, as I got to know him more into the second semester, I'd be like, why do you just like go missing for a while? Like, why do you disappear and you like don't really talk to anyone? Like you don't go out, like you don't seem like yourself. And he was like, I don't know. It's just sometimes I get this feeling that nobody actually likes me or nobody actually appreciates me or like I don't like feel like close to anybody. And I feel like they don't really care about me. I'm just someone else that's there. And in my mind, he was like the most fun person to be with. Like he was so much fun. Like literally everyone loves him. He's a great person. He's fun to be around. He's nice. He's like a good friend that you want. And like in my mind, it made no sense because it's like everyone perceives him as this person that's like so fun to be around. And he's fun to drink with, he's fun to hang out with. But
Yeah,
in his mind, he still felt like he wasn't
right,
there, you know?
right.
And I think that's the case for a lot of people. Like even myself, like I'm no shame in saying like right now I don't enjoy college. I've had this like weird kind of realization with myself where I struggle with a lot of things in college and it's not what I expected to be and it's not what I wanted to be. And it's like this weird transition phase where I'm like trying to be something more, trying to be someone that I want to be, you know, which is hard. But if I look at my Instagram or I look at what I post on social media, it looks like I'm having so much fun. Like it looks like I'm doing all these different things and it looks like I'm having so much fun to the people on the outside. But personally, I'm like, oh my God, like I just like I feel lost.
Right.
But then other people, if they look at my social media, then it's like, oh, that kid's definitely having fun. He's having the time of his life. And so I think that's the case with a lot of people. I think a lot, and I also have like my girlfriend, she feels the same way. Like a lot of people, my other close friend, she feels the same way. Like I think a lot of people feel this way. And I think it gets very cloudy when social media is involved, or just like, yeah, I would say social media is the biggest thing, but I think it gets very cloudy because I mean, like all things, and everyone kind of knows this, that social media is not real life. Whatever's on social media is not reality.
Right.
But to answer your question, I do think I personally think, and this could not be the case, but I personally think just because of people that I've met and people that I've spoke to, that a lot of people feel like this. Maybe not to the same extent. There's degrees to everything, but I do think a lot of people think like this.
Definitely. I'm here to tell you the statistics will show you that, yes, there are more people than ever struggling with anxiety, more young people and all ages, but young people in particular struggling with depression. So it's there, but it's hidden. And that's why you two are so amazing and brave to do this, because maybe that will help like your friend, like what a good friend you are to this guy, to let him be able to open up about something you notice. Like, and that's all it takes is for somebody to be real and be like, hey, I noticed you're not around, once a month or whatever, or, you're not the same this week that you are other weeks. That's all it takes is somebody to be real. And then it opens the door for people to be like, yeah, let me be real. Like things suck right now. And when we as humans can identify, because we're mirrors for each other, right? So when we can identify and feel seen and heard, like Steph said, and feel like we can be real, then that helps. What you're doing there, Henry, is actually coming out of your identity crisis, because you're like, oh, wait, here's the mirror. He goes through that too. Maybe I'm not, whatever the words would be, abnormal, or maybe this is part of this experience of kind of solidifying who I am, what I want, where I feel best, who I feel best with, all those things. So you guys having that conversation is like monumentally mature, number one, and monumentally healing for both of you. Because again, people don't share this. And I asked you that question because I think we all know the reality, and I'm as guilty as ever. You look at my Facebook, it looks like, oh, life is wonderful, whatever. I'm traveling, I'm this, that, and the other. And do I have moments of all that stuff? Of course, because I'm human. Like, yes, I'm 57 and I've learned a few things, but I still go through things for sure. But unfortunately, we don't have that open of a door except for these kind of scenarios. So that's where the healing comes in, of really then, once that, I don't want to say healing, but the opening comes in of, then you can solidify, like, here's where I make meaning and purpose, and here's where I feel best and feel myself. And that's the stage that's even beyond this individuation, of where you're really actualizing yourself and really coming into who you are. So kudos to both of you, because you're very, very, very mature, and it is a process and it's not fun. And Steph and I were talking yesterday, I'm just going to say one more thing, Steph, about being willing to sit with the hard stuff, being willing to be uncomfortable, being willing to feel emotion. And what I see as a therapist is this entire society is no longer okay with even a second of discomfort. Never mind, like in our day, Steph and my parents' day, they might have a nervous breakdown, it was called. They might have a nervous breakdown, and people might end up in the hospital for 3 days because their nervous system couldn't take whatever was going on and they couldn't handle it. Now there's nervous breakdowns like every second. It's just not called that. But because we can't handle and we can't co-regulate, and we don't handle dysregulation, we don't know how to do that. So you guys sitting with this discomfort is actually the best thing you can do, versus numbing it, medicating it, escaping it in any way, denying it, whatever else we all do. And this is going to help you with your self-actualization, which is, coming into play with all this individuation and all this developmental stuff. So I just say that because that's huge that you had that experience with a friend. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking now.
No, I just wanted to say
it's exciting.
It really is. And I Dr. Shows, I know there's something like this. I don't know what the heck it is, but isn't there something where like your true self has to come into alignment with like the person, like your public persona? Like there's some part of life where those two things have to meet. And it's like, the more you become yourself, and the more like, you have comfortability, like people really experience joy when they can be their true authentic self. And you hear people talk about that all the time. It's not something that happens necessarily in college, but it's something, to Dr. Shez's point, I'm really proud of both of you, because you have this awareness that this persona, this public persona, doesn't match the inside at all. Or maybe, maybe it partially does, but it doesn't entirely. So maybe for Henry, that's like, I have to learn how to put myself out there more, because that makes me feel good about things. The alcohol isn't the part that's making you feel good. It's the confidence to share who you are and to be bigger than yourself, bigger than what you are without alcohol, to the world. And so that's maybe something that you look at and you go, oh, that's what I have to work on. And for Anna, maybe it's just, I have to start to learn to be comfortable and accept that, maybe big groups are never going to be my thing. Maybe I'm a small group kind of person. I'm a very small group kind of person. I can be okay with big groups, but I find that my personality is very diminished in a bigger group. Like, I am my most authentic self in smaller groups. And this takes years of paying attention to who you are. And that's, I think, really what's happening here is you guys are actually listening to the voice inside. You're actually paying attention. A lot of people don't get that far. So I wanted to say that I agree with Dr. Shez. Comfortable in the uncomfortable is one of the greatest lessons, and we still keep learning it. I have told my children the story of my friend who was I mean, basically drank all the way through college and then all through until he was like 45 when he realized he couldn't, like, he didn't even know who he was anymore without drinking. And that's a really horrible place to get when you're 45 and you realize, oh my gosh, I don't even know who I am. My public persona doesn't even match my insides. When I'm outside, I have to be drinking and they're not in alignment. And that was really a hard 5 years. Took him 5 years to sort of integrate the two, who he was, and that's hard at 45 after you have children and a group of friends. So I would just say, again, kudos to you guys. And then the last thing I would say is that you are asking yourself, that you like maybe question and ask yourself, are the expectations that society puts out there, are they even realistic? Because this will happen over and over again in life. And so it's always good to ask these things. Are my expectations for my birthday realistic? Or have I expressed the things that I need? You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, if you never say to Henry, for example, your friend, hey, are you okay? Like, you seem to disappear. And maybe even at that time going like, oh, that's really interesting. And I can really relate to that. Saying to your friend, maybe, if you're feeling like that, I'd love to go out. We can go do something else. We can go to a movie, or we can go get coffee, or we can go do something, we can go hiking in Arizona somewhere, whatever it is, just really trying to set your expectations and look at, whether it's marriage. People get disappointed all the time. We have expectations for how are we going to feel with money? Oh, money's going to be great. People get money, and then like people who win the lottery, they lose the lottery. They lose all the money from the lottery.
Every time.
Every time.
And everything else.
Exactly. People think marriage is going to be this great thing, but we have to set expectations to be realistic and go, okay, I have to be comfortable in this new reality and work my way through it and be true to who I am, because that's really where your joy is going to come from. Sorry, that was a lot, but.
No, I think that's really good. I wanted to ask both of you, have either of you been to therapy? Have either of you been to any kind of group or individual therapy? And you cannot answer if you don't want to. This is anonymous, but still, if you want to, I was just curious.
I have, yes.
Okay. And here's why I ask, because I feel like every single person, if you can, and in college you can, because oftentimes it's free as part of your tuition, which is hallelujah, yay, because it should be. I feel like everyone should have that outside, non-biased, non-connected to your family support system person that you can, as we're all coming into this self-actualization place of who we are as adults, that we can all kind of see the mirror differently, because definitely who you surround yourself with is who provides the mirror, and then you mirror back, and it's who you attract too. So it kind of up leveling that by being with a trained person, and it can be a coach, whoever, it can be any kind of person in that way that you trust and that works. I've found that for college students, that makes a big difference in the adjustment and the feeling of overall peace and ease. And that's really the goal of just kind of, the goal is not happiness, because happiness is a temporary state. The goal is peace and ease, and just being able to ride the waves and be okay and be your, just what you said, Steph, be your true authentic self without dissonance. What dissonance creates is what you're talking about, where I feel something of who I am, but it's not what I see in society. And so I'm kind of in this incongruent, dissonant place. And that creates anxiety. Like, that's obviously because we're trying to live up to something, or we're trying to be something else. Or it can create the depression with like, oh my God, I'm not that. What does that mean? Anyway, so I say that, using resources that are there for college students, that would be amazing if every college student kind of took advantage of that opportunity. And not just college students, really all of us need that. Like, we go to the dentist, why don't we also have therapists that we see annually, or twice a year, or 3 times a year, or once a week, Anyway, so I say that too, because does this feel like, to share, we've talked a lot, but for you guys, Henry and Anna, does it feel freeing or feel right and good to be able to share about these things, even though it's with 2 moms that are older or whatever? How does that feel to be able to share your true place of what's going on for you?
I think it definitely helps. And I think it helps hearing Henry's perspective because, as he mentioned, something along the lines of how he, doesn't truly love college. And, I had all these expectations of, oh, well, I love the place that I'm going. And I know a few people, it's going to be awesome. But at the end of the day, if I have to be really truthful with myself, I don't think I could say I love college either. And I told my therapist that for the first time yesterday. I said, if I am going to be really honest here, knowing what I know now, I don't think I would have picked the same school. But, even that's a far-fetched statement because my experience could be the same at a different school or worse or, maybe better. But I don't really think it's the school. I just think it's the culture in general that's so hyped up and just not for everyone.
For sure. Yeah. You guys are living in a time when this social media stuff really skews things. So you have to almost be hyper vigilant and hyper alert to what that does to you. Like really pay attention to what does it feel like when I'm scrolling through stuff? And if it feels not good, then it's only on you to put those limitations in place to be like, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore. And I do know of college students, at least 3 of them, and it sometimes surprises me that are completely, I am on no social media, none at all. And I am like, wow, could I do that? And that's a good question to ask ourselves. Could we and would we do that and see what happens when we are completely not living in that world that is this, pretend of here's what things are supposed to look like or what people make them up to look like. And sometimes they're real. So I don't mean to say that. Sometimes it is, but it's really hard. I can't imagine. So I'm glad that you were honest with your therapist and told her, yeah, this kind of was not that great. And that means that there was growth happening too. We grow when we're uncomfortable. We don't really grow when we're super comfortable. When we're sliding by, we're like, but when we're uncomfortable, we're growing. So that as the reason why I'm like rah about you guys is because what your uncomfort and discomfort means is that you're moving past at a really fast speed. You're moving past this stuff into the next, which is hopefully feeling more grounded and more secure and more authentic with yourself and marrying all that stuff.
Can I touch on something you said?
Yeah, please do.
I think for me personally, when I came into college, I had a lot of expectations about how I wanted to change. Like I wanted to do, like I wanted to change completely, essentially. Like I wanted to be a different person. I had all these thoughts on how I would change. I thought that like the changes that I needed would not needed, but I thought college would change me for the better. And since being in college, I think it has definitely changed me, and it hasn't been in the ways that I wanted. I think it's been more the ways that like I needed to change, like I needed to figure all this stuff out. And I kind of find peace in that. It's like, okay, this sucks right now. Like I'm really learning who I am essentially across the country from my family, like with very select few of friends. Like I'm like learning how to be alone essentially in this world or in my world. I'm learning to be alone. And so I think college has been I'll say I don't like college because it's definitely not what it had like I wanted it to be, obviously. And I know I still have 2.5 years left where everything can change. But I think now I'm starting to realize like this is what I needed. This is what needed to happen. Like this is how I needed to grow. And I find peace in that because it's like it might suck now, but I have hope that it'll get better. And I have hope that because I'm realizing this now and I'm realizing this early that maybe I'll be ahead and maybe I'll be like, okay, I can start becoming more comfortable self. And also a big thing that I learned in college also is how to be alone, because I think that's a really big thing. Is like I had this big thought when I came to college that I would always be with friends. I wouldn't never be alone. Like if I ever need to do something, I would do it with someone else. And that is the case. That was the case for me last year, but now it's like I have to learn to be alone more, and that's a really uncomfortable thing for me because I hate being alone. Like I used to be able to be alone a lot in high school, but now in the past like 2 years it switched, and I hate being alone. And that's something I'm trying to learn to do more often. I'm trying to learn to be more comfortable being alone because I think that's a big part of college. You're not always going to be with someone. You're not always going to be going out. You're not always going to be entertained. You really have to learn how to be alone. And that's a big thing that I'm just starting to learn now.
Those are huge. Those are like huge. Yeah.
I also think it's not even just a big thing in college, it's a big thing in life. I mean, Dr. Shez was saying this the other day that she's learning to not be codependent. And I think that's really interesting because I did a lot of things on my own. I went to Mexico, I met people there, and I think you have to be willing to try things that are on your own because for your entire life, you need to know that you can survive. You can do it. Like, no matter what, you are totally capable to be on your own. And I highly recommend that. I always say, like, you can start with little things, going to a coffee shop with a book, because Shazwa, you that said to me, isn't it weird how today people go out, maybe it wasn't you, people go out to dinner. You see a couple, they go out to dinner, and as soon as one gets up and goes to the bathroom, the other one picks up their phone. Like, they cannot even sit for that 5 minutes while the other person is going to the bathroom without looking at their phone. Like, in our generation, we didn't have that, but even we are guilty of, as soon as my husband gets up, I'm like, oh, okay, look through this. And purposefully trying to stay in the moment without connecting to something and being, again, comfortable in the uncomfortable, putting yourself in situations where you don't know people. I mean, to be fair, what's interesting even is when you go to college today, you get to find your roommate beforehand on Facebook. What the heck? When we went to college, you literally ended up in a dorm room with somebody you had no idea whether they were going to be anything like you. You actually ended up on a college campus you didn't know anything about. You were looking through a phone book. Oh, I want to go to school in DC. Oh, this one looks good. Oh, my grades, I can get into this one. Okay. And then I end up with, I'm not even going to say my roommate's name. She and I were nothing alike. She was super weird. And, we survived. That is, we, in our generation, we were made to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, and that will save you a lot of this feeling of loneliness, just getting through it. I've said to my family and my kids, I remember being awkward as shit at parties, and I smoked a cigarette, which was really bad. Don't judge. So did Dr. Shez. But I would
No, I did too. Do you remember that?
No, I know you did.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you did this, Shez, I would walk around the party and then I'd be like, okay, it's really dorky if I walk around again because I'm not talking to anyone. So I'd go in the bathroom and I'd friggin' blow off like 15 minutes in the bathroom. I'd be like, I don't even care what people think is happening here because I just can't go back out there. It's more awkward to show my face. But you learn that you have to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah. Or not even, you don't even have to be comfortable. I feel like it's just willing to be there and be okay, willing to not fall apart. Like, we can admit it's not comfortable. Like, it does kind of suck, but it's okay. And like you were saying, if you zoom out, Henry, then you can see that, hey, I'm growing. Even though this is not fun, I'm really growing and I'm learning to be alone. I don't love it. I don't like it. It's not so fun. It's not what I thought it would be, but I'm willing to do it. And I see that I'm growing and I see that it helps me and I'm having hope. I just feel like knowing that and feeling that bigger picture is what will continue to drive you to be okay with those kind of things, And I love that at this age, you guys are figuring out who you are. Like, that's a huge task. And it's an unraveling. It's not just a one and done, but it's an unraveling. But how beautiful is that? And you're only going to know by going through these experiences. So that's a huge task and beautiful and a big part of, wow, then college was a huge success. If you come out of that feeling like yourself better than you did going in, that's beautiful. That means that you didn't waste 4 years drinking, and you learned some things too, I'm sure. But because I think what happens for a lot of people is it's all about the partying. And do they come out knowing themselves a little better? Maybe not. Like you're saying, Steph, that guy that was 45 years old. If you don't know yourself a little better, then you didn't take the time to do that. You not wasted, but well, some might say that. That's why wasted's a good word, actually. Wow, never thought of that. being wasted is a really good word for being drunk and high, because it is a waste, actually. Boy,
Yeah.
never thought of that. Where did that word come from? That's a good one. I gotta remember to look that up and research what that urban
Wasted
dictionary.
if you
where
want to
did
waste your life
come
away.
from? Huh?
Get wasted if you want to waste your life away.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't help you make friends and help you with inhibition and all that kind of stuff, but does it get you to true purpose, meaning, and feeling like
True
you know
self.
yourself and your
Does it
true
get you to
self?
true self? Does
No,
it get you to true self? Probably not.
no, because it's suppressing and numbing who we really are. A lot of times it's used that way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Anna?
Well, I think Henry put it well, is that, I think we're at a place where we need to be, maybe not where we want to be, because we don't feel like we fit in as well per se. But I know that I've done a lot of self growth in college. So if anything, at least I have that much, and, I can appreciate that. I think Henry put it well, though.
And it's helpful to know that it's not just you. There's other people out there that feel the same way as you. Big party school,
Absolutely.
smaller school, in a great city. It can all be disappointing. Nothing is a surefire thing that it's going to be great. Henry, any final thoughts?
I think that college teaches you a lot, and I think that with the addition of how our culture is today, especially the culture from like 18 to like 24, however you want to put it, that kind of age group, it's very strange and it's very weird and it's very outcasty. It's just weird, and it doesn't fit the mold for a lot of people. And I think with the addition of drinking and everything like that in college, it makes things so much harder. And I think talking like this has really helped. Like, even when I talked to my friend about that, when I was talking about my friend that told me that, he was drunk when he said it, because when you're drunk, a lot of things just kind of spill out. I've noticed that a lot. And so, which it's good in a sense, but at the same time, it's not good, because at that point, you can only really talk and be your true self if you're drunk. And like, that's when everything real comes out. But I think talking like this is really healthy. And I've only had the opportunity to talk about this with this select few people that I feel comfortable talking about. And so that in that sense, it makes you kind of feel more alone, because it's like, oh, you can't really talk about this with anybody. And it's like weird to talk about this because you get really vulnerable. And like, essentially, in my mind, at least when I say this, it's like everyone's gonna think I'm a loser. Like, oh, look at this kid who didn't like college. But in reality, that's not the case. And I think I'm just starting now to realize that that's not the case, because I think a lot of people, and the more I think about it and the more I'm alone with my thoughts about this, the more I think people actually feel this way. They're just too scared to come out about it.
You
So
know,
I
true.
don't know if any of that makes
No.
sense, but
no, it makes perfect sense. And I'm just going to say one thing. Dr. Shez and I interviewed a guy who, like you said, you feel like a loser. We interviewed this guy. He was totally not a loser. He was totally adorable. And he had a very similar experience, that he went to Spain, and everyone's like, oh my God, it's going to be the time of your life. It's going to be amazing. And I think that those things drove his like depression, actually, in that time of his life, because he was like, wait a minute, if I'm in this place where I'm supposed to be having the best time of my life, all these Spanish girls are supposed to fall in love with me, I'm supposed to be, great times, all this kind of stuff, and it wasn't happening. He's like, what does that mean for the rest of my life? And I just want to say that those words, those expectations, exactly what we're talking about, for anybody who's listening, that is the problem, is that no one can tell you what those experiences are supposed to be and how they'll be. We all have a lot to do with how we experience things, but I think sometimes it's hard because we don't have, like Dr. Shez was saying, like the structure around you is like your family when you're young. But I also think we don't have the social outlets and the communities that allow kids who are not drinking, like your friend Henry, who, like, where do you go on college campuses? What are the groups that you can go to? I mean, there are some that are more like a finance investment group. Maybe you'll have fun doing those things. But I think it's really important to realize that there aren't enough of those things. There aren't enough, like, let's get out and go rock climbing. Let's get out and go hiking or biking, or, like Anna was saying, that she works out. Like, it'd be cool if there was more of that kind of stuff in colleges, that kids can have deeper connections, doing things that are fun and experiential. So I mean, I guess I didn't really further our discussion here, just to say that the expectations are put on everybody, and I don't think it says you're a loser. I think actually it means you're somebody who's a little bit more honest and aware. And I also think that, in thinking this, Henry, you're still a sophomore in college. Are there places that you can go, that you can connect? I don't know if they exist. I assume they might exist, but they're also something you could create or find on your own. I know every running store has a running group or things like that, that you can kind of connect with a group of people doing things that aren't alcohol based.
I also want to say this on a kind of esoteric or philosophical thing as a recap or whatever, is that using the word loser or I am lost, that's again a time when we're lost. We are growing because we have to then find something. We have to find ourselves or get to somewhere, right? So find our way out. That's maybe what I want to say. So I actually love the word loser, or that I'm lost, because it means that you're on a path to finding something. And you guys are both talking about finding who you are. Steph and I are in the same boat of continually uncovering who we are, right? And I also think that substituting those kind of mantras for, oh my God, does that mean I'm a loser? Instead to say, no, I'm lost and I'm really mature. And like you said, I'm really aware and I'm really focused on this other part that is finding this thing. So I think that too, of let's not buy into any of that matrix stuff, even the words that I'm a loser. That's a great word, because yes, you're finding something. Like that's really cool, because you're going through a process that might be kind of difficult, but you're finding something. So I think that too, that like reframing all this for you guys and keep that mantra in your mind of how incredibly mature I think you are, Steph thinks you are, and how brave and really centered you guys are to be on this path to where you are. And what happens when one or two people do this kind of stuff, other people notice, and it pulls people out. And this kid that disappears, I don't want to harp too much on this, but those are the people that worry me, because those are the ones that might hurt themselves. And then people say later, oh, but that was the person that I thought was so happy, so happy. It's like the class clown that you think, oh, he's so funny, but he's not. He's miserable and he's compensating because of that. So having these kinds of conversations saves lives and empowers people to go to the finding versus staying in the I'm stuck, I'm lost, and see that that's what it is. And it's all part of it. And it's all okay. It's not fun, but it's okay. So anyway, thank you for all the honesty and all that you're sharing, because I think this will really help a lot of people. I think, Steph, you inviting two people to this was key, because had it just been Anna, she might have thought, oh, I'm alone, or just Henry, oh, I'm alone. And I think the goal would be, let's get 45 people on this Zoom call that can all say, yeah, this stuff sucks. How do we unite in like getting to more meaning and purpose and authentic fun with ourselves? And yeah, sure, we might have a glass of wine too, but let's, do this a little differently than I have to be drunk for you to know me.
I would like to say one more thing, if I can.
Please.
Of course.
That I was just thinking. This is kind of to my discredit, but just this whole thing kind of started with the expectations that people have, and then them not meeting those expectations. And so it originally started with, oh, I thought college would be completely different. And then now at this point, and I'm starting to realize this now, but it's like my expectations now are, oh, I want all these things. I want a great group of friends that I can like go adventuring with or do whatever. And then we can go out and do something fun, like go to a comedy club on a Friday night instead of going out to a bar. And so like those are my expectations now. And I think just with expectations in general, you start to lose a lot with those, because it's like, if I look at my life now, I'm not necessarily in the happiest point, but I also know that I do have friends. And I think when I started to realize that I want something else than I have, I started to discredit what I do have. And so it's like I started to neglect certain friendships, and I started to isolate myself with certain people, and instead of like appreciating what I do have. I don't know where I'm really going with this. I think the whole idea that expectations in general are not a good thing, because I have good friends now. I have a select few good friends, and I neglected those friends because it wasn't what I imagined I would have in my head. It wasn't necessarily what I imagined I wanted. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think just the whole idea of expectations, whether you think they're good or they're bad, it's bad. They're in general bad because it leaves you feeling lost, which I know can be a good thing. But in my own experience, this year I had these expectations of what I wanted, and with those expectations came me neglecting what I already have.
Yes.
I-
Bingo, bango. And this, I just want to say this, Steph, real quick. This is where you said, Steph, about comparison being the thief of joy. I share with couples, because how this comes up in relationship is that people have expectations of each other as partners, right? But they're not voiced. They're just like, you should act this way and you should be this way, right? And it is so dangerous that I say to people, there is a bad word that begins with a D. It's damn. We can all say that. There's a bad word that begins with an F. We all know what that word is. In between that, a really bad place to be is E, expectation. And the more, you are so right, Henry, the more that we can be aware that we have these expectations, and it's this picture that plays in our mind. The first language is pictures. So we see it almost in a picture. If we can be aware of this picture, catch it and be like, why do I have that picture? That is a dirty place to be. That is a bad word. That is a not okay place. So let me reframe that and let me be with reality, like what I really do have. That's where the antidote is gratitude, all these other things that you all know about. But that is so true. And that's where, if we were taught this stuff as youth so that we could really build that muscle, as you say, Steph, and really learn these things and practice, we'd be great at it. So the more that we can, with expectations in particular, see that as another, I don't like the good and bad words, but just put it that way because it's an E word, but just know that that is really dangerous territory. And so the more we can be aware, the more we can step outside of that and be like, yeah, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to suspend expectations as much as I can. And that is very hard, but we can do it for sure. And how you do that is switching, just like you said, to what do I have? What am I grateful for?
Gratitude will bring more. And I do see this a lot of times with my daughter, is she looks at life very black and white. These people are bad, or I don't like them because they don't like the same music that I like, or they don't do this the same way I do. And I always say to her, you have to remember that no one person is going to fulfill all of your needs. First, you have to love yourself. That's the path that the two of you are on. Second, you have to realize that your friends, sometimes even your spouse, even like your major relationships in your life, they're not going to be everything that you need. Your parent can't be everything that you need in order to fulfill your life. And it takes sometimes a long time to realize that. But I think that's sort of the essence of what you're saying, Henry, is that like in this quest for a certain type of life that you expect to have or you want to have, you're realizing that the friends who are drinking, you sort of like brush them off because that's not necessarily what your goals are for yourself, but they do represent a certain important part of your life. But it's just that we need, all of us have different buckets that we need filled from other people. We have to fulfill and be okay on our own, but we also can't expect spirituality to come from our friends who we have fun skiing with. They may intersect, they may not intersect, but realize that in life you're going to have a lot of cups that you need filled, a lot of buckets that you need filled from different people, and to respect and to honor that person for what they have. And I think to Dr. Shez's woo-woo point is that the more we can be grateful for the friends that bring us fun to hang out with, they're really great to go out with, the more we create the energy around us that says, I still need more. This person still needs more in order to have a fulfilled life. But I'm so grateful for the individuals who are here that are, I'm able to party with, or I'm able to study with. I just need the people who are going to fill these other buckets, these other levels of intimacy and happiness. And I also need to find that in myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it. Okay. Thank you both for joining us. Dr. Shez, any final things to say?
I think this was really powerful. So just thank you. I think this is really, really important. So I encourage you both to keep being as authentic as you can with your peers and just see what happens. Like, it's interesting when you start opening up, people do open up. And sometimes it's not safe, but when it is, see what happens. And it may be that you get closer and closer and closer relationships.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
for being here. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Anna. Take care.
Guys, all the best. You rock.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of 7 on Sundays.
The 7 on Sundays podcast represents the opinions of Dr. Shez Levy and Stephanie Boy based on our experience. It also shares the stories, behaviors, and opinions of our guests that we do not necessarily condone or view as healthy. 7 on Sundays is an open forum to discuss what is happening with our listening audience. Some names and details of our guest stories have been changed to protect their anonymity. This podcast is not a substitute for mental health treatment. If you are in crisis and in need of mental health support, please call 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It is free and confidential.
Join the conversation and connect with us through our website, 7onsundays.com. That's the number 7onsundays.com. We encourage everyone to do their own research. Thank you and be well.